Of thought.
Get ready.
The Prophet of Thought series. Prophet of Thought series.
Peace, folks, and welcome back to another edition of the Prophet of Thought series right here on the old T.P.O.T YouTube page. I'm your host X, of course, but you knew that already. That's why you're here. Now tonight, this 4th of July, I started not to do a show tonight because I didn't think nobody was going to be around, but I said, what the hell, because me, I don't really care about the 4th of July, but I didn't know what other folks was doing. So, but I decided to do it anyway, because tonight, the brother I'm going to have on here tonight, he used to be one of my favorite non-YouTubers, but now he's a YouTuber too. So, and actually you can check out his site down there. It's in the description box if you want to get on the brother's site. None other than Cerulean Grey. I mean, I got a lot of respect for this brother. He's been on my show a few times before. I mean, he's a pyramid of wisdom. I mean, if I had a nickel for every time that I have referred to something that he has said, man, I could stop working. I could just live off of my nickels. You know what I'm saying? I could live off of my nickels. So I guess I had sent him, let me tell y'all how stupid I was tonight, y'all. I had sent the professor the email and didn't even put the goddamn link in there. So I had to email him again with the damn link. I wrote him, I said, here's the link. But when I sent the email, it didn't have the damn link in it. So, running behind, man, like I always am. I know I'm supposed to start at 9:30, man, but I usually don't get a damn thing going around here till 9:45. But y'all watch me. Y'all know how it goes. So it's nothing new to y'all. What's good, everybody? I see y'all in the chat, Brother Faulkner, JLJ5, Black in Japan. What's good, Brother DeAndre? Megan Brown, the Sorceress, uncolonized mind. Man, don't be having them long names in my chat, man. You know my eyes bad. Make sure I'm reading that right. Yeah, uncolonized mind. Yeah, so tonight we're gonna have the professor on live and direct. It's not that often that I get the professor all to myself. And tonight, as y'all can see from the title is live on T.P.O.T with Professor Cerulean Grey, of course. And we're going to be talking about the manufacturing of propaganda. Okay. I should have my hand over here, shouldn't I? We're going to be talking about the manufacturing of propaganda. So what I need y'all to do, I need y'all to go ahead and put some likes down in here. If you're not going to hit the like button when you come in the door, at least hit the like button when you go out the door. And also, while I got y'all attention, you might want to go ahead and hit this here. Hit that old Streamlabs link right there. Okay. Put a few coins in the bucket. It would be greatly appreciated. If you don't want to donate no likes, at least throw a brother a few dollars, you know, so I can just take it and re-enter it into the old T.P.O.T machine. And I believe the guest of honor has arrived. What's good, brother Cerulean?
Greetings, esteemed Prophet Xavier. How am I coming in? Man?
Huh?
How am I coming in?
Loud and clear. I can hear you, man. I can hear you. I was just telling the brothers and sisters that man, I got a lot of respect for you, brother. And it's not that often that I get you all to myself. So so I figured tonight we would talk about because I often hear you talk about propaganda and manufacturing. So I figured we would discuss the manufacturing of propaganda. So we might as well just get right on into it. Won't you go ahead and explain to the folks the process of manufacturing, how things are manufactured?
Well, it's a rather simple process. You know, I'll always prelude, for instance, this point by saying this. We as Black people, well, this is generally humans, we look at a finished product, and in our dissatisfaction of the product, we criticize it, we abuse it, and never consider the manufacturing process, for instance, that created the product. You see, you know, we were manufactured here in this country. Sure, the base DNA may be still remain distinctly African, but our customs, traditions, way of life is distinctly American. You see, we went to American schools. We have American birth certificates, American citizenship. We were issued a receipt at birth called a birth certificate. We became a part of the American machine by being issued a social security number to be products. Is what it is. It's a product ID code, kind of like a SKU or a barcode that you would see on a product that you would buy in a store. And not only are we the products, we are also the consumers. As we deal with each other's Black people on a regular basis, we are also the consumers of those products.
Well, brother Cerulean, do you believe that are we as Black folks, are we more susceptible to the manufacturing process? I mean, I guess when we were first brought over here, were we conditioned to be more susceptible to this manufacturing?
Well, yeah, you have to think when we come into America, we come in as raw materials. We come in as raw materials. Why? Because we're completely foreign to the American landscape, and through abuse, imposed trauma, regularly imposed trauma, i.e., rape, murder, humiliation, what have you. You know, the same way. Take for instance, raw material has to be abused to be shaped into, for instance, bar stock. If you know the process of manufacturing iron ore, or and turning it, transmuting it into uh, iron stock, that iron ore has to be abused, has to go through some abuse to change the properties of it so that it can be pliable in the use of manufacturing other goods. And it's the same way that we as Black people in this country have gone through um, a similar process in which we come here as raw materials, abused, and then transmuted, transformed into a product to be fit into American society, the American way of life.
Well, is there any way for us to stave it off? How do we stave it off? There's got to be a way to kind of stave it off, or reverse engineer, if you will, right?
Oh, there is. That's the importance behind, for instance, organizing, right? Um, to what you're doing when you're organizing is you are creating your own manufacturing plant. And that's the idea, is to mass produce, especially children who think, act, and behave in the interest of their group. Because right now we actually think, act, behave, spend our money that works actually against our better interest. America has shown and proved time and time again that we are something separate from America. That's the reason why you still have racial classification. That's the reason why you still have things like the dog whistle language of black on black violence, and you have people using the flying monkey, narcissistic kind of victim shaming, in which is, oh, you just playing victims. Well, why are you playing victims? You see, because what has been done to us has been done. In the same way that you manufacture raw ore and refine it into a metal to be used for American manufacturing. You see, if I want to build a car, I can't build it from raw iron ore. You see, if I need niggas, you see, raw niggas ain't necessarily good for American society, are they? Why you think they're doing what they're doing down at the border? You see, because raw niggas that come here, they come here with their own culture, they come here with their own way of life, and it takes 3 generations to do that. Well, and that's the reason why you have the child theft. Because America is looking for a quicker way to refine these things into usable American products in 1 generation, versus spending the time, money, effort, and resources to wait for it to be filtered out over 3 generations of sending foreign children to the schools for the next 3-4 generations before it filters out. And they've adopted a distinctly American way of life, as opposed to a Muslim or a Latino, Hispanic, what have you, way of life.
So why do you believe that many of us because we talk about, we talk about the manufacturing process. So when you manufacture something, there's always an end product, right?
Yes.
Why do you think that we focus so much on the end product and not on the manufacturing and or the manufacturer?
Well, it's the same reason why you have companies that when they produce a defective product, the first thing they try to do is deny that the product is defective, or deny the fact that there is a flaw in manufacturing, or that the factory is just intentionally producing defective products. And so that now that way it passes the blame from the manufacturer to the consumer. So it must have been consumer abused the product. It has nothing to do with a defect that comes from our plant. You see, so it's the plausible deniability. So that way they don't have to be held into the responsibility of fixing it, because fixing it is quite costly.
So when it comes to us, Professor, we often find ourselves, at the end of said manufacturing process, right?
Yes.
So being that we are, many of us are the end product of this manufacturing process, where do we start? I know you often talk about organizing. Let me rephrase the question. Do you think there are more defective products than there should be? When you talk about us as a people, are there more defective products coming out of said manufacturer than it should be?
Absolutely. In fact, the most defective of black products that are being manufactured by America are those that basically speak on behalf of the manufacturer. These are defective products in which they cannot see or think beyond a single layer. And so what happens is, because they've gone along with the manufacturer's uh, kind of shoving off its responsibility, they say, oh, well, it must be the product that's defective. The product itself is defective because of you other black folk. See the black on black violence. See, that's all you. That's pathological. See all the criminal behavior, when actually the criminal underclass was also manufactured because of some very wealthy people constrict the flow of currency to certain parts of society. You see, if I'm a multi-billionaire, if I'm a Plutarch, or what our esteemed brethren BGS calls the Fabian socialist, in which I control the flow of currency, I can actually choose where in society that currency goes. And if I have a certain bias against a group of people, which these people have traditionally had, right, I can cut off the flow of currency to a segment of society. You see, you have to remember, we were manufactured to be the machines of agriculture and of mining, of building, even commercial trade, right? After the abolishment of slavery, we're told that we still get to inherit our historic position that was held by our ancestors who were in bondage, but we did not get the ability to participate in commerce. So, because we were the commercial instruments of the time, so we got to inherit their position, but not sharing any of the wealth that was created as a result of their contribution to this country. And that is
So
problematic.
so where we are now, okay, where we are now in this country, because I mean you're a well-read brother, a studied brother, and you see the where we are now as a people. Do you ever think that we're ever going to get to a point where things aren't as crazy, where people aren't getting killed and as much in places like Chicago and Detroit and things like that? What is the solution to that kind of stuff, Professor? What's the solution to those things?
The solution, it goes back to organizing, right? Because you have to get a mass or a critical mass of people to go along with the same program, to get them to stop acting against their better interest, to form up a mass, because only as a mass can you affect change in this country. If you got one group of people over here saying, okay, we demand reparations, and then you have another group of people that look exactly like you saying, oh, that was so long ago. You see, they're speaking on behalf of the manufacturer. They are such a defective product that they can't even see the very simple implication that our history as Black people in this country has been one of fighting to gain more within a system that oppresses us, right? Into which we get eventually a strong enough foothold to where we can start pushing out children who will become adults that act on behalf and to the benefit of Black people. But we don't have that. Because if you look at the history of Black people in America, it's always been one of resistance. It's never been one of, oh, just going along and to get along and the conformity and all of that. It's always been political opposition, political resistance, military. There's always been social resistance. And now you have this new slew of dog whistle language, like the coded language of, oh, the social justice warriors, like they should be kissing the social justice warriors' ass. And you have Black people using these dog whistles. Your MLK, social justice warrior. Even though, in my personal express opinion, he was not a benefit to Black society. But you have a man that's right over there, over your right shoulder. Our esteemed brethren, our revered elder, Malcolm X, another social justice warrior. They should be kissing brothers like this ass. Because the only reason why you are here and able to exercise the amount of rights that you currently have is because of those same social justice warriors. But what happened is white societies, the Southern strategists, have created this slew of dog whistle language to browbeat the Negro into feeling ashamed about our history in this country. And so they begin speaking on behalf of white society.
Yeah, I've always wondered why many of us seem to be ashamed of the true history. I mean, I've always wondered, like you just said, ashamed of our own history. Um, I know it's uncomfortable. It's hard to listen to at times, but to be ashamed of our own history seems a little misguided to me, because it is what it is. I mean, you know,
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. See, these people suffer this term of dubbed manic self-inflicted shame, right? Which comes as a result of repeatedly being browbeat by the dominant society with these self-cannibalizing and falsely contrived arguments such as, oh, at black on black crime, which are basically weaponized mainstream propagandist deflections that white supremacists use when obvious racial disparities and injustices are exposed by people who are the victims of these injustices. You see, like the economic suffocation that ensures that black business will be too few and far in between within your own communities, or the displacement of black business by an influx of foreigners, right? So-called immigrants. You see, that is an injustice against black people. But because you have these other defective products who like to speak on behalf of white society, they are literally like peasants for a plutocracy. Leave the immigrants alone, even though the immigrants are here to replace you as the cheap labor class. And see, in a couple of generations, whenever they get tired of those immigrants, they import new and cheaper labor from other third world countries.
Well, let's talk about the immigrants, because I have some strong thoughts about it. I mean, I see it in the news, because I watch a lot of news. That's pretty much all I watch on TV, news and documentaries. I don't watch a lot of television. And I've seen it on the news, and I've seen the people getting separated from their babies, and babies, shuttled off to who knows where. And I've tried to feel bad for them. I really have. But it's not working, because I think about the history of black folks. I've read the books.
It's actually every black person,
things of that nature. So it's like, it's hard for me to feel bad, because these people are coming here by choice. Okay, it's not like they're coming here in chains. Now everybody says, oh, they're running from violence and all this kind of crap, but they're coming here by choice, right? And they get here, and they're put one place, and their babies are put somewhere else. Now I'm pretty sure those babies are getting fed, clothed, housed, all of that, right?
Oh yes, they're fleecing the American system, and then browbeating black people for using the system in the same way, in which you have to remember, see, every black person should feel insult or be insulted by constantly having our history being relegated to this comparative new age crap where white America shows immigrants who they have always been, and then suddenly, oh, we can treat it just like you guys. No, you're not. You weren't manufactured here. You came here as a finished product from another country.
Exactly.
You came here as a foreign import, because you came here by choice. You see, and not only that, you see, you have to remember the manufacturing process is a process by which raw materials are transformed into a finished product. They were already finished products when they got across the fucking border. They were already finished products when they got off the plane. We were manufactured here.
Mm-hmm.
We are domestically manufactured products, not imports. Everyone else is imports. They didn't go through the same process of torture, of murder, of humiliation that manufactured the Negro of today. They didn't.
Do you think that the reason why so many of them continue to come, knowing what the risks are, knowing that they may be separated from their children, do you think that they kind of lay down on the fact that black people are here, and they want to rely on the whatever cushion they think black people are getting from America, so they can come in and kind of lay on that cushion as well, and hopefully be able to stay and suck out of the very same system that they may think black people are sucking out of?
Yeah, see, America has done such an exceptional job at subverting the world, in which they made people of other countries believe that America was the land of milk and honey. And what has happened was that causes this massive immigration or migration of foreign populations into America. America didn't give a fuck about who uh, within their own country, as in, i.e., citizens, black people are American citizens who would actually be offset by this massive migration. You see, they didn't care. The foreigners who came here never took into consideration how they would affect the domestic population that already pre-existed here, i.e., black people. It is not until America shows these foreign populations who they really are, is which that the leopard has never changed its spots. It is still a poisonous creature. And now that it is struck, now you want to have want us to have some kind of sympathy for you. But it's not the same process that created black people. And so, in my opinion, it's basically fuck them, or to steal a line from our esteemed brethren Tariq Nasheed. This is the land of hold thy own nuts.
This is my thing, Professor. I mean, you have these people, they're coming here. They've been coming here for generations. It's nothing new, right? And they get here, and when they get here, the first thing that comes out of these people's mouths, and I talked about this on Brother Valdez's stream a few days ago. The first thing they say is, "Oh, our African American brothers and sisters should stand in solidarity with us," which I think is total bullshit. All right, there's
It
no
absolutely
way in
is.
the hell we could have solidarity with you people. I mean, I don't know if I got Hispanic people out there in the audience, but the reality is this, man. Just like the professor was just saying, these people are a finished product, and they're coming here by choice. Okay, they weren't dragged here in chains. They wasn't piled into a bunch of damn slave ships and forced to come here. They're coming here on their own, thinking they're going to benefit from said system for whatever reason.
And then not to
they're running
mention
from wars and violence,
and then not to mention that they're not really running from wars and violence. They're running here because they have been subverted to believe that America is the land of milk and honey. The dollar is the U.S. or the U.S. dollar is the world's reserve currency, and because it's the world's reserve currency, it has the ability to undermine foreign currencies. What happens is foreign populations, they come here, their money is speculatory, in which they do have their own currency that competes with the US dollar, but the US dollar, being the world's reserve currency, has the ability to undermine it, which makes it easier for you to say build up Africa, or for you to say build up Mexico from America, than it is to try to build up Africa or Mexico from Mexico. But the problem is that a lot of these people that actually come here, they come here with their own finance. The problem is that their lack of participation in their own country financially is what allows their money to be devalued and undermined by the American dollar, which makes it easier for basically us to exploit those other countries and more difficult for those other countries to exploit us. And so when they come here, they look at the economic well-being of America, and they think this is the best place for them because it's better than where they're at, because their entire financial system is being undermined.
Wow. I think that we are fools. Like I said, I mean, we shouldn't be showing solidarity with them, because I mean, I know many instances where black children, I spoke about this on Brother Valdez's show too. I talked about I talked about the kids in Flint, Michigan. Somewhere between 8 and 9,000 of those children have been poisoned, man. You know, they're drinking that poison lead lined water. Okay. These children are going to grow up with learning problems. They're going to grow up with brain damage. They're going to grow up with all kinds of problems, you know, and a lot of these children were small. You know, you're talking about babies drinking it in their bottles and little tykes, you know, drinking it, you know, and I didn't see one goddamn Hispanic person standing in solidarity with these people. I didn't see one goddamn Hispanic person standing up there shouting to the rooftops about how these children, because that's all you hear on the news. Oh, these poor children, these poor children, my ass. Poor children are being put up somewhere and they're probably living better than many black children are living at home with their parents. So
Absolutely.
they can just go ahead with that shit too, because that 8, 9, 10. I tell my wife this all the time. I said, maybe I can feel bad because they say there's like 2,500 of them. I tell my wife all the time, maybe I can start feeling bad when the numbers get to like 8, 9,000. It needs to be equivalent to those black poison babies before I can kind of muster up some bad feelings.
Yeah, I don't feel bad. You see, because black people, here in America, we have always been the moral backbone of America. We have always let these other immigrant groups know exactly what America's about, because they seem to come over here broad-eyed, bushy-tailed, and when you get to tell them shit, oh, you're just making excuses, until it becomes them. And so we've been the moral backbone of America. So I have no feelings of sympathy or empathy for these other groups. Now, until they begin showing some sympathy and empathy for our black children, then and only then can I say, okay, I empathize. But I still won't be sprung into action to speak on their behalf, for the simple fact one of our own was murdered in cold blood by a Hispanic named George Zimmerman. And you didn't hear one Hispanic speak on behalf of ours when it was one of theirs did. Another Hispanic, Geronimo Yanez, murdered our esteemed brethren Philando Castile in cold blood. Not a single Hispanic spoke out against it. Another one of our esteemed brethren out in Charlottesville, who was protesting the Charlottesville thugs, right? The Charlottesville alt-right thugs was there was one named what was his name, Alexander Ramos, who assaulted a brother. Nope, and he was considered himself a Puerto Rican. Not a single time did the Puerto Ricans speak on behalf of Alexander Ramos. I mean, or speak against Alexander Ramos. No. And so I have no empathy or no sympathy for these people. The same way they don't show us any empathy, they don't show us any sympathy, they don't show that they are relatable. All they have are white supremacist talking points and dog whistles like black on black violence. They bring up Chicago. And every black person, by the way, should be insulted whenever they use the black on black violence argument, because what it does is it implies that black people are not American. Okay.
Yes, because it's an American problem. It's American violence. It's not like we're on this other continent. I mean, every black person born in this damn country is an American black person.
Yes.
It's not like they're not like they're a black person from outer space. They are an American black person. So it is an American problem. It's not well, that's what I think it is. And this leads me to talk about the next subject I want to talk about, propaganda. Oftentimes propaganda is used. These things open the door for this propaganda laden talk, doesn't it? It opens the
Oh
door
yeah.
for it, right?
Yeah, see, because how propaganda actually works and how it's employed is basically, first step one is you select a target and then you create a mission around it. You select a target, you create a mission around it. Stage two, you stage or manufacture a traumatic or emotion invoking event. Similar to what is happening at the border. This is all manufactured. Similar to what you have every time that a black kid gets gunned down by an agent of the state. They dig into that kid's criminal record or his family's criminal record. So they're staging a traumatic or emotion invoking event. And they have no problem using real lives to do this. Third is you report it to the world using dog whistle language a lot of the time. That's why one of the most common dog whistle languages, if you look at what just happened with Extinction, right? One of the dog whistle languages that they use, or the dog whistle phrases that they used, was, well, he was no angel. So does that justify him being murdered in cold blood? No, it doesn't. But you report it to the world as if it is justifiable to murder him in cold blood. The fourth is you manufacture your witnesses. You do this all the time. White Society does this all the time. If you remember, they did this with the Central Park Five. They staged a traumatic event, or they made a spectacle out of a traumatic event in which white girl gets raped. They blame the black guys, and then they turn it into a media debacle, a media spectacle. And then some 20-odd years later, come to find out these men were completely innocent, exonerated by DNA evidence. Step five is you garner sympathy using those dog whistles, right? Oh, this is a tragedy. You hear them say this all the time. Oh, this is a tragedy. If you remember what happened with, take for instance, the mass shooter at the Mandalay Bay Hotel in Las Vegas. And somebody had brought it up on national TV, and the guy said, it's already, are you going to let the dead rest? See, they don't give any of that kind of concern or consideration for black victims.
Nope.
The same way that they gave that level of concern and consideration for a black mass murderer, right? And so they garner sympathy using dog whistle language. Step five is you rally for revenge or a call for desperation to unite. And this they do this using moralism. This is the morally right thing to do. We have to come together. We are bigger than this. So it's a campaign. It's a campaign tactic. They rally for revenge or a call for desperation to unite. They could use this. They could do this using patriotism. Whites have been going on a campaign, especially whites like Jared Taylor, like Richard Spencer, like David Duke, like Tom Metzger. Tom Metzger's whole campaign. He created a terrorist organization known as WAR, the White Aryan Resistance, right? Using identitarian politics. You see, whites are good at that. They use identity politics. It's hard to do that with black folks because black folks don't even see their own skin as identity. They just don't. It doesn't matter what white society does to them. Not all white people are bad.
Good, those good white folk.
That's good with white folk.
Those good white folk.
And then stage 7 is you suggest the culprits using coded language and stereotypes. This goes back to the Southern Strategy. 1981, Alexander P. Lamas interviewed Lee Atwater, and he broke down the Southern Strategy, which says, well, you start out 1954 by saying nigger, 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 nigger. By 1958, that hurts you, so you start saying more abstract things like forced bus states, states' rights. And then by 1971, you're talking even more abstract than what you're saying, lower taxes and all of that, and the end result being that black people get hurt worse than whites. You see, and so you're suggesting culprits like, oh, taxes is the issue. I got to lower taxes, but it's ultimately going to mean that it's bad for blacks, good for whites. Bad for the worker or the proletariat, good for the bourgeoisie. You see,
Yep.
they're going to, the other way they do it is by using the same dog whistle language. Well, it's not the system is broken. The system is broken. No, the system is working as it was designed to work. It is working as it has always worked, with its intended design in mind, which is why Dred Scott has never been overturned, which is why 14th Amendment provisional slavery has never been overturned. And then 8th stage, you arrest nobody, or you just abduct anyone to show the public that the state is doing their job. You know, to hold them up as a symbol of fear, or in some cases a symbol of hope. Like if you remember that video footage that they shown of the U.S. Navy dumping what they supposedly was supposed to be Osama bin Laden's body over the water to inspire this sense of hope. You see, it didn't do anything, and you don't even know if that was him.
Mm-hmm.
You see, but you're just doing it to show. Well, the military's doing its job. You know, the state's doing its job. The government's doing its job, right? And step 9, which is the last and final stage, is in which the stage has basically been set for a war, an agenda, a campaign, one that can't be won against an enemy that can't be seen, which is exactly how the war on drugs, the war on poverty, and now the war on terrorism has been able to go on for as long as they have, virtually unchallenged. Because it's a campaign that can't be won, and it's an enemy that can't be seen. Poverty can't be seen. Drugs can't be seen, because it's this metaphysical idea that we're just going to take the war to drugs. You can't see them because you don't know who at any given point in time has drugs. So basically what you're doing is going on a witch hunt. Mm-hmm. And you can't be won, you can't be seen. And then you have to question, as a result, knowing this is the process in which propaganda works, who are the real victims?
Isn't that part of propaganda, though? I mean, when you say war on poverty, war on drugs, you're not really fighting the war on poverty or the war on drugs. You're going after and fighting the said victims of this poverty, of these drugs. Are you not? That's what
you are.
The war is on.
In fact, you look at the war on poverty. Who was the most displaced by the war on poverty? Black people. They basically said it was illegal to be poor in America. You're being priced out. Who was the most disaffected by the war on drugs? Black people. In fact, the department chair for Nixon, his name is John Ehrlichman. He actually went on record, said that the Nixon White House, during the time that Nixon announced the war on drugs, that the Nixon White House had two enemies: the anti-war left, i.e., the hippies, and black people. Now, this is his DPC, elected by Nixon himself, who comes out, 20 some years later saying, well, the Nixon White House had two enemies, and one of those enemies was black people. And then you look at who was the most disaffected by the war on drugs: black people. Who was mass incarcerated as a result of the war on drugs? Black people. How is it that a country of only 5% of the world's population has 25, if not more, percent of the world's prisoners, and nearly 2/3 of those prisoners are blacks or other non-whites? How do you live in a country in which whites commit the most crimes and are the prison's minority population? How does that happen? Unless it was propaganda that's conditioning people, because they use their dog whistle. Oh, he's a thug, arrest him. He's a criminal, arrest him. He's a gangbanger, arrest him. So it's just a system in which a person at will, by agents of the state, can just label something, act on that label, and arrest them, mass incarcerate them, do whatever, because the propaganda is there to say, well, he was a criminal, and the law says I should arrest criminals and gangbangers and all that, and he has tattoos like a gangbanger. he was wearing his pants sagging.
He must be a felon. He must be committing a felony if he has on a hoodie or his pants will say he must be a felon. He must.
Yes, because propaganda is meant to condition the brain in order to shape the real victim's worldview. Not only of other groups, but of themselves as well. They do this with police all the time. Every time you hear a story about police, there's a hero, he's this and he's that. And you look at what just happened in Baltimore, which you have the white supremacist who's recently outed. You see? You look at what happened down in Alabama, where you had an entire department outed for years of planting drugs on black men.
Yes, years, man, years. I heard that story, man. Years, and it was just going on like normal. It's like it was just another day at the office. Let me go plant some dope on this black guy, send him up the river forever and ever for absolutely
nothing,
no crime. I mean, what other people does that happen to? Whenever you see a story or something like that, where you see the cops planting drugs or the cops planting guns, it's always a black person. They never plant drugs and shit on white people. They never plant guns and weapons and shit on other white people. They don't even plant drugs shit on black people.
Notice they don't even plant drugs on immigrants. They don't plant guns on immigrants. They don't plant anything on immigrants. Notice that?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, that's because immigrants are here. Immigrants are here to fulfill a duty to the Plutarchs, to ensure that the corporations always have a steady flow, a pipeline, if you will, of cheap, expendable, and replaceable labor. That's what immigrants are here for.
This is what's always bothered me, and I'm gonna ask you about it, Brother Cerulean. I always thought that American schools that they have black people in, I always thought that the schools were to get black folks ready to work, in factories and distributors and things like that. And now that there are immigrants here, they have no use for black people. black people are being kicked to the side. Am I wrong for thinking that?
No, you're not wrong for thinking that. This was a problem. This is a problem going all the way back to Jim Crow. In fact, it was Huey P. Newton. He actually said an amazing quote, and this was back in the 60s. I'm just going to pull it up right here and quote Huey P. He said that youths are passed through the schools that don't teach, then forced to search for jobs that don't exist, and finally left stranded in the streets to stare at the glamorous lives advertised around them. Huey P. Newton said that in 1969.
Well, do you believe that? Well, I believe it, so I know you probably believe it too. Do you believe that a lot of us black folks we have fell victim to some of this propaganda, and a lot of us use the shit ourselves? I hear it. I hear a lot of the propaganda. I hear a lot of the quote unquote white folk talking points that you hear brothers use. It's almost as if they've separated themselves from black society, as if they can put on this cloak and make themselves not black. Yeah, it's like they can put on some
the golden fleece, huh?
Yeah, they put that shit on and they're another color. And I think this, I mean, and I've said this a lot. I've said this for many, many years. I truly believe that some of us, man, we just love white people.
We do.
We love them. We fear them. We idolize them. All that shit at one time. That's what I believe. A lot of us, many of us, and probably way more of us than it should be. We love white folks. We fear white folks. Idolize white folks. And I think that shit is a major part of the problem.
We do. We absolutely do love white folks for the most part. I mean, you think about it. You went to a white school. Okay. If it wasn't established, maintained, financed by black money, you basically went to a white school. White curriculum taught you white standards and values, which is why you learned everything about Greek history and nothing about African or any other history, right? But only history from the perspective of Western or white society. This is why you still have Negroes today that can quote Plato, but they couldn't tell you anything that, for instance, Marcus Garvey or Kwame Nkrumah or anyone else of the revolutionary resistance struggle in America has ever said. You see, so you're conditioned. School is a system of memorization and conditioning the children to love, respect, fear, honor, and revere white folks. In fact, they taught you that white folks are your saviors. And this is before you even get to the Jesus. I mean, they're hitting you on that side with the Jesus nonsense as well. But they're teaching you that whites are your saviors. They taught you that the reason why you have this country is because of some white folks freed themselves from British Empire. And in fact, there is one white folks who every kid learns in American history, and that is the legend of Paul Revere, the Midnight Ride. So if it wasn't for Paul Revere,
yeah,
them Brits, them redcoats may very well have won the war. So you're taught to honor him. He is a white Jesus of your education or your American educational system. And then not only that, but yeah, you grew up to parents, right, who were manufactured in the same system, which is why for a lot of the kids even today, it's difficult for them to go to their parents because their parents are going to give them the same answers, kind of like that Teddy Ruxpin. You remember Teddy Ruxpin or My
Mhm.
Buddy? You press the button or you pull the cord and it gives you the same copy and pasted line of bull. I love you.
Mhm.
You're special. Hi, honey. We're friends to the end. Isn't life great?
And
You-
you know what makes it really bad when you have these people, man, who just love white folks. And they have a lot of these people have a following, because this is something I always say about brothers on media, especially brothers on YouTube. One thing, we are all different, but one thing that we all have is an audience, whether it's grand or somewhat small. We all have an audience. So when you have these people who just love white folks and they are spewing the propaganda, and you have people who are susceptible to said propaganda taking this stuff in, okay, they're taking it in, and not only are they taking it in, they are living it. A lot of them are living it, because a lot of these people feed off of these people's talking points. They feed off.
oh yes, they
They feed
they
them.
they they eat everything that falls from the ass of white society. I mean, you're talking specifically about the so-called Negro conservatives or
Mm.
the so-called black conservatives, right? And they're not really black conservatives. They're actually uh, black or neoliberals in blackface, minstrel blackface. Is it because it's all neoliberalism now? And basically, these Negro conservatives have been convinced that less fortunate Negroes are not only their own worst enemy, but the root cause of their own problems, and completely ignoring the history, right? But will then, you see, they'll ignore the history of the legacy of slavery, legacy of Jim Crow, 14th Amendment provisional slavery. They'll ignore all of that and then give you a alternate history lesson like everybody had slaves.
Let
Like,
me
nigga, we not
let me
everybody. We're not talking about everybody else. We talking about the shit that happened here in America.
Yeah, exactly. Let me ask you this, brother Cerulean. You know, there is this on the internet. You're on the internet. You're actually a fellow YouTuber now. Um, there's always been this type of division between, black women and black men. Us brothers, we talk about it all the time. I don't think it's as bad as brothers have made it out to be, but
No, it's not.
element of it.
No, it's not that. It's not as bad as a lot of niggas make it out to be. In fact, BGS and I, we've talked about this on numerous occasions in which uh, we talk about white society is trying to assimilate black people now.
Mm,
That's why the communities are being broken up. They're aggressively pushing the interracial agenda, the swirling agenda, the interracial dating and mixed children agenda, right?
mm.
It's not as bad because black people historically in this country have actually been the most resistant to assimilation. We've actually been the most resistant, and that's what the data really shows: is that we have actually been resistant to American assimilation, and with good
Don't
reason.
We don't want it. We don't want it. We don't
Well,
want it.
For one, is because we've never known freedom. We've never been free. See, you have Negroes run around here say, "Oh, you's free now." Oh, yes, said who? Has Dred Scott been overturned? Did the 14th Amendment provisional slavery, did that get removed from the Constitution? You've never been free. You can't name me a single group in the world in which that was enslaved, and now, after being released from slavery, told by their former enslavers how their freedom was to be exercised. We're the only group in existence that has had that. We're the only group that has been dictated to by our former enslavers how our freedom was to be exercised. You can't even name, there was nobody that can even name me a single group right now that was enslaved and then told by their former enslavers, this is what you're going to be identified by. Because as I mentioned before, we still call ourselves black. Black is a forced identitarian classification. We're the only group that still goes by our former enslavers' own labels of ourselves, our former enslavers' classifications. Yeah.
What should we be calling ourselves? What do you think we should be calling ourselves? What should we be calling ourselves?
That is something to be decided by mass body when we get to that stage of organization.
I actually agree. Well, you listening to the Prophet of Thought series with Brother Cerulean Grey up here live on T.P.O.T. If you're feeling generous, because y'all know this is worth some money, put a few coins in this bucket right here. You see right there. See that yellow, see it look like it's been swiped with a yellow highlighter right there, the Prophet of Thought series. Hit that old Streamlabs link there if you're feeling generous. And also, if you're feeling generous with some of those likes, get those like numbers up too. I mean, if you're not going to hit the damn like button on the way in, at least hit the like button on the way out. So let's get some coins in the bucket. Let's get some likes in this here bucket. Thank you. It is greatly appreciated because, like I said, you know this is worth money. Now we were talking about
the chasm between black men and women.
Yes, black men and black women. Do you think that is manufactured propaganda, Brother Cerulean?
That's not only propaganda, that has been manufactured to be a social and cultural reality for black people. That has been manufactured to be a social and cultural reality for black people. Because you have to think, how has it been manufactured? It's been through economy. Our women have the ability to exercise their judgment, voice, and independent of their men. The only group of women that do it. And the reason why they're the only group of women that can do that is because they're the only group of women in which black men and women, they get their money from the same source as their black men get their money from. You see, it's difficult to, say, for instance, dictate policy to your women when she can go outside of you
and get her money. Would it be better? Okay. Would it be better if say there wasn't White Daddy, right? Because I believe that this is what White Daddy wanted. The White Daddy, Big Daddy government, whatever you want to call them, I think this is what they wanted. They wanted to make it so that black people didn't have as many solid family units. I think they wanted black people to be somewhat divided, because if black people are in unison and in unity, man, look the hell out. So I think this is
they've
what
seen
they
the.
wanted.
Well, see, of course, this is what they wanted. They've seen the evidence of what a unified black society looks like, and it means bad for a white society. Intact family structure in the black community spells doom for white society. And we've seen this before, in which black people at one point in time nearly outpopulated white society, which is why they had the influx of foreigners, specifically Irish, in which they were just taking the Irish, left and right, until they formally accepted through the 1890 Immigration Act. You see, um, so an intact family unit and family structure for black people spells imminent doom for white people, because they've seen the evidence of our ability to unify and be prosperous without them. And so what they have done is manufactured this chasm. And so they promote the black woman over the black man in order to do this. Black man feels left out. They can then send in their white women, who have always been used as their tools of social warfare, to scoop up the black men, right? And erect him through the white woman, but always keeping him at bay, because the white woman is actually used to defang the black man, to neutralize him as a threat to white men. This is why you go to a family court. Most of your family court judges are white women. Like 85 to 90% of all family court judges are white women. This is why you see in interracial court cases, you see a black man, a white woman. That black man will get raked over the coals. Black man and black woman will get raked over the coals. White man with black woman gets raked over the coals.
Yeah, notice that. Notice that. And it's
because that white woman, it's that white woman, she will drag white men over the coals for white women, but white women would never drag a white man over the coals for black women.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I have seen, man, and I've been noticing this a lot lately when I do happen to, see a commercial here and there, that you're actually seeing more commercials where, the man is white, the woman is black. They got the little mixed kid and or kids, and it's more of this than I've ever seen before. I mean, maybe I just don't watch enough TV.
Oh no, you're absolutely right. There is more of it. See, because this is related to China's encroachment on Western empire, and so they're now trying to push the interracial agenda more aggressively. You see, you have to remember what empire entails. Empire entails that there is more resources and wealth being extracted from other countries to be used by this country and its allies than there is going outside of the country, right? Now that China is encroaching on America's ability to bring in those immense amount of resources, now they have to push the assimilation process even faster, which means now they have to convince white men to start taking on black women. And really, the black woman has actually always been the prize for the white man, to restore not only sexual access, but to keep her as a baby making factory to produce an entire generation of mulatto children, which he can actually stably breed with. Because this is also related to the negative birth rate in America. So the black woman has actually always been the prize for white society, which is why you can. I'll show you a clip. Matter of fact, I'll have to probably send it to your email.
Okay.
There's a clip you can see it in the city pages scattered around your city. There's these things called the city pages. On the back of those city pages, there's an advertisement for eggs, right? For women to be egg donors, paying women sometimes upwards of $5,000 to $6,000 per donation of their eggs.
Wow.
And the average age they're looking for are especially black or non-white women between the ages of 18 and 28 to
Wow.
donate their eggs. And what they do with those eggs is they take those eggs and they implant a white sperm into them, and then they, through in vitro fertilization, implant that egg into a white woman's womb. And that's why you have, that's why it was last year, the year before, you had several cases in which you had these white women suing their fertility clinics because their children came out black.
Mm.
And then, of course, you had the fertility clinic saying, "Oh, we used the wrong sperm." How'd you use the wrong sperm? It said Leroy on the side. It wasn't the fact that they used the wrong sperm, though. It was the fact that they used black women's eggs
Mm.
in the in vitro fertilization process.
Well, let me ask you this, Professor. Isn't that what it all boils down to? Isn't it about population control? I mean, isn't that like the nucleus of a lot of this crap, where they don't want the black population to get too big, so they do all these other things. They manufacture all this crap, they manufacture all this propaganda, but isn't that really the nucleus of it? The populations of black people at a certain number?
It absolutely is. This is all about the fear of white genetic extinction as exposed by our esteemed and revered elder, Dr. Francis Cress Wilson.
Yes.
In which this is actually stems from the fear of white genetic extinction. When they say in population control, what they population and climate control and all of that shit, what they're really saying is that there's just too many niggas.
Too many niggas.
Yes.
That's what they really saying. There's too many of you. Big roles.
You think about it, America has been
They've tried so much stuff, though. They've tried so many things. We still here, 45 million strong. So the shit they're doing isn't working. It's not working, right? It's not working.
No, it's not. It's not working. That is actually shows the resilience of black genetics. But see, the thing is that they've been using black genetics to bounce their own genetic sustainability into the next generation. You see, you gotta think that this isn't the first time in American history in which white people were under replenishment. This isn't the first time. The last time it happened was in the 70s. And then what happened? War on drugs, expansion of welfare. And see, because the welfare state is actually being manufactured in order to ensure that the state has its numbers up to stave off the effects of the negative birth rate. And because blacks have historically been the most fertile and populative group in America, it goes to show you why we are still 45 million strong despite all of the attempts of genocide.
I mean, they have tried everything. They've tried mass incarceration. They've tried lynching, killing, shooting us shooting us up with.
And then you got to look at
everything.
Yeah. Then you got to look at niggas, right? Black men. See, what the white men didn't count on is that, one, you can't keep a nigga from no pussy. Okay, let's just keep it real. You can't keep a nigga from no pussy, no way, shape, or form.
Nope.
No matter how hard they tried mass incarceration. Mass incarceration couldn't keep a nigga from some pussy.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Not gonna happen. Not going to happen. It's just not. Man, I'm looking in my goddamn email, and you know what I got in my email right now? A goddamn hangout link from damn Obsidian. And what the hell is he sending me a damn link for to a hangout? I don't see myself ever going to Obsidian's channel like ever again, ever. I just don't see it. It's just not in my near future. And I'm looking at my email and I'm like, damn, what the hell? And he literally sent me a link. I don't know why. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why. But anyway, now, brother Cerulean, if we as black people, right? And now I've said this million times before. Unfortunately, us as black people, we don't have 5 million professors. We don't have 5-10 million BGSs. We just don't. I mean, we just don't. I wish we did, but we don't. So, do you agree that some of us will be saved, some of us will organize, some of us will come out of this shit, but many of us won't? Do you agree?
I do agree. See, the idea is not really to save everybody; it's to get a massive, a critical mass of people. And by a critical mass, what I mean is, if you have 10% of the black population right now that is well organized, you can actually create considerable wave of change, not only in the black community but in America. 10% is a critical mass, because you have to think the structure, the plutocracy. Only the top 10% of America has all of the wealth, resources, and opportunities. Control the wealth, resources, and opportunities. 0.1% of America are the wealthiest billionaires, probably even trillionaires. And America's top 13 billionaires actually have more money than the collective of the black community, than the whole of the Black Society. Our number one problem is that we are not organized. 10% is a critical mass in which that is sufficient enough to create a considerable amount of change. I mean, I just finished the video on the American plutocracy, and I actually talk about a documentary in there. It's called Black Church Inc. Profits for Profit. Or profit, profits for profit.
Oh yeah.
In which the narrator, who is an investigative journalism, he talks about how between 1980 and 2010, that the black church has brought in over $420 billion. And that's more than the collective money that we spend on sports, entertainment, Jordans, Weave combined. On average, the church brings in between $14 and $20 billion a year, which is more than even our highest year of holiday consumer spending.
And that wouldn't even be that bad of a thing if some of that shit was reflected within Black society. Wouldn't be so bad if they was collecting all that money and you were seeing some of it
Yes,
throughout Black
you were seeing
society.
it. You were seeing it poured back into the community. Why? Because see, we want to be organized. We have to properly use the money that we do have, which is basically gone to buy the pastor, a new Benz
A
every year,
helicopter, a
or a new jet.
plane.
Yeah, or a new jet. Creflo Dollar's case, right?
Yeah. He come to the church in his helicopter. You got a helicopter pad in the back of the damn church because he really needs it. He really needs that helicopter. He really needs that
Well,
damn
he's that
jet.
one Louisiana, that white pastor from Louisiana who said he can't fly. He can't fly in a commercial plane because there's demons on that plane.
Yeah, there's demons on the plane, so he got to have his own private, so he can get away from the demons. And the crazy thing is, professors, that we as Black people, we always falling for this shit, man. We always falling for this bullshit, man. Can't we see that these people are bullshitting us? Can't we see it, man?
Oh, we know for a fact that they're bullshitting us. But see, the thing is that the problem is that we've been so conditioned. For the most part, many Black folk just don't know anything else, so they stick with what they know. This is because humans are naturally creatures of habit anyway. We're creatures of habit and routine, and so the same way that we have been conditioned, we have to be just as diligent and aggressive pushing our message to Black people to recondition them into something else and then get them acclimated into that pattern.
I mean, I guess I know me, right? I was raised in New York, right? But I was raised by country folks. Okay, my parents were from the South. All right, my father was from Georgia, and we were raised country, even though we lived in New York. If that makes any sense. We lived in New York, but our house was like a farm. We had animals and vegetables and all this kind of bullshit. We had freaking chickens and rabbits and ducks and all this kind of stuff. So I say that to say this: if you are conditioned in a certain environment, I mean, even if that environment that you're being conditioned in a particular environment, even if it seems abnormal, once you have endured that conditioning long enough, it doesn't seem abnormal anymore. It's just like, just like we were living in New York, but it was like we were living a farm life, even though it wasn't like that. We were like the only people on our block who lived like that. So I think it's sort of like that. I mean, I think we have been put into an environment where we've been conditioned so long that we don't even see this shit as abnormal. We just don't, man. I mean, it's like, I don't know. And it bothers me because I've always been a person, and I tell my wife this all the time. I thought we as Black people always thought we were smarter than this, man. I thought we were smarter than this shit, man. You know what I'm saying? I talked to Brother Valdez about this
a part of
days ago.
That's a part of the subversionary tactics, right? In subversion basically, because I have a video on subversion, which is basically a method of non-physical, non-combative warfare that is waged on a group that practices an independent set of social routines, beliefs, and cultural observances, right? That disagrees with the imposing group's ideals. You see, the imposing group's goal is to convince the victims of their subversion to follow, support, and sustain and the imposing group's ideals. So this is done by causing victims to abandon their own ideals for foreign ones. You see, the methods of subversion, one of them actually being propaganda. Propaganda, you have to remember, is an art form. Propaganda is an art form, and it's the art of mind shaping using information, especially that of a biased or misleading nature, which is used to promote or publicize a particular agenda, mission, political cause, or point of view through imagery and usually false narratives. Like you look at, take for instance, the homosexuality argument. You look at how they're using propaganda, i.e., mainstream media. You look at the black characters. A lot of times, black characters in like your TV shows usually gay. Usually the gay black guy. See, remember, it used to be the token black guy, and then since the whole gay uprising, it's become now it's the gay token black guy, right?
The homosexual black guy.
You know, the other methods of subversion are, of course, religion, routine, repetition, finance. Finance in itself is religion. And then you have education, indoctrination. Indoctrination basically is a style of brainwashing that conditions a person in which the choices that they can make are actually dictated by the conditioning or the imposing group. So, say for instance, the imposing group says, "What do you want for breakfast? Cornflakes or pancakes?" You see, because that's all the imposing group is offering, we only think one or the other. That's the reason why they continue to give us the false two-party system. Are you going to be a Democrat or Republican? And then you have Republicans say, "Oh, you guys on the Democratic plantation."
Yeah, right.
You see, that's all indoctrination. Another way that subversion is employed is promotion through practice. Promotion through practice, this false sense of friendship is basically how they co-opt agents, right? And then what comes as a result of the demoralization process, the denigration, social, political, economic destabilization, desensitization to social and cultural degradation. And what's ushered in as a result is this sense of normalcy, in which the social degradation and demoralization basically becomes fun, enjoyable, and sometimes even comfortable. That's why you have black people that know what's going on, have a difficult time dealing with other black people or even shaming them into a proper pattern of behavior, because what they think is normal is actually what those who know better look at as social degradation and demoralization. And then when it gets even further than that, subversion actually leads to this term I've dubbed cultural inversion, in which now we're just pointing the finger back and forth. It's those type of black people over there. No, it's those type of black people over there. It's the men. No, it's the women. So cultural inversion is where you have this intercultural conflict where you're just pointing the finger back and forth at one another and forgetting that there is actually an entire machine that is imposing these views on your group. You see, that's why you still have people trying to resurrect the old, people trying to resurrect the old gender war of the 70s, right? It's still using Michelle Wallace style talking points. The book that is speculative whether or not she wrote it or not, the Black Macho and the Myth of the Superwoman, in which she states that black men are the enemy and all of this, and black men want us to be barefoot and pregnant and all of this other crap. No, in fact, white men want black women to be barefoot and pregnant. This is why they pay for the babies. This is why they create the legislation to pay for the babies. This is why they expanded welfare, is because they wanted black women to be barefoot and pregnant. Isn't that what they are? They're barefoot and pregnant with virtually no safety net in the world. The only safety net that they do have is one of that is given to them by white supremacy that they lean upon. You see? And you have black men who don't understand that a lot of these talking points came from white feminists who were there to supplant black women from the black power struggle, the civil rights struggle, to uproot the black woman from supporting the black men by painting him as the big black out of control sexual brute. And so through this system of subversion, we have been inverted to start pointing the fingers at one another within our group and not recognizing the overall imposing group that is actually manufacturing all of this social illness that we are actually incubated in.
What has often bothered me, okay, in my lifetime is that a lot of us, we don't see, not just the fact that we don't see that we have adapted white folks ideology, but the fact that we don't see that the white folks ideology does not work for us. It doesn't. I mean, it gets us nowhere, man. It doesn't work for us. It just doesn't. And we don't see it. I guess that's why we are
well, you have to remember
of propaganda.
Well, you have to remember this is all animal conditioning, right? You take a mouse and you put it into a maze puzzle, right? And you put cheese or some kind of food, whatever the animal eats, at one end of the maze. Eventually, that rat or that animal will find its way to the other end of the maze by sniffing out that cheese. And if you keep putting cheese there, the animal will know that there's always that cheese is going to be there. If you continue to do that on a routine basis, that is, we have been conditioned like animals to basically stick with what we know, despite the fact that it doesn't work for us. You have to remember what normalcy entails. See, because when you put that animal into that maze puzzle with that cheese at the end, right? That rat in the maze puzzle with that cheese on the end, he goes to that spot because that is now his world view of what normal is. To know to look for that cheese at that spot. You see, because remember, subversion happens like this. First, you have the social, political, economic destabilization, right? And you have the social and cultural demoralization and degradation. And then you have desensitization to the former two, right? And what happens is normalcy, or the false sense of normalcy, in which the former three are so common that they're no longer even noticeable. Think of it like a person who has bad body odor. You can smell it, but the person who it belongs to has a difficulty time smelling it. In his mind or her mind, there is nothing wrong with him, but something wrong with you.
Because you smell it.
Because you smell it. Because in subversion, how they do is they pollute one generation in order to subvert the next. And then when the elders of the previous generation, i.e. like our boomers and Gen Xers, right? When the elders of the previous generations, who knows what is actually going on, actually dies off, the now polluted generation, i.e. our now millennials, the polluted generation is left to fend for itself, which makes it easier for subversion to employ. And that's why you have a lot of these millennials now even just going off the rails. And they believe that racism no longer exists. White people ain't called me a nigger. I haven't heard a white person never called me a nigger. Because they have been even conditioned to think that racism is hinged upon that one word.
Yep.
Despite what policies are being created to disadvantage the group. They don't think that racism is a real thing. You have millennials that actually think racism is some kind of boogeyman. That white supremacy is some kind of boogeyman.
I've heard them say, I've heard these millennials, because I see them and I have a few of them that work for me, and they say They say racism is dead, and whenever they say that, I'll be like, "What the Jesse Lee Peterson? What the Jesse Lee Peterson did you just say?" I mean, because it's like, I mean, if you believe racism is dead, man, I don't know, I don't know what you do with your day or with your life. You must have not read any books. You must not watch any news. You must not listen to the radio, read a newspaper, watch YouTube. You must not do any of that. If you believe that racism is dead, you pretty much live inside of a fucking box. And when you're out of that box, you have blindfolds on, you have earplugs in your ears, and you never leave too much farther than maybe 2 or 3 feet from that box. I don't think any black person can say with a straight face that racism is no more. I mean, there's no way you're saying that with a straight face. Oh, there's no more racism. There is no more bigotry.
They're lying to themselves. They're lying to themselves. See, because that is also a religion. You see, religion is something you're given. It's a tool used to socialize you to the society or the group that dominates you. It dictates what their concept of what right and wrong is. This is why you hear all of these Negroes who criticize other black folk. Their main problem with other black folk is one that is of morality. Isn't that what you hear Jesse Lee Peterson say? Black people are immoral. Black people are immoral.
People are evil. You know, that's what he said. They're evil. They are what the hell does he say, man? I don't even want to start talking about him. Because I actually been watching some of his shit lately, you know. And this guy is just I can't even describe him. I can't even describe him. I mean, he's like in the script. I don't know what to say about this guy, especially when he gets a black person on and a black person talks about, you know, racism and police brutality and police shootings and shit like that.
Well, he came up in
denial of shit.
He came up in the generation. He came up in the generation of the minstrel. You got to remember, this is a survival tactic.
Wow.
Right. This is a survival tactic. One way that they know that they could get paid is by throwing other black people under the bus. White people love doing it. White people love seeing other black people get thrown under the bus.
Well,
I mean, you remember go back to the minstrel show, right? Go back to the minstrel show. They had the shoe shuffling, step to fetch it, tap dancing,
soft shoe. Had to do the soft shoe. But see, if you're like that though, you are still a freaking slave. You're owned by them. If the only way you can make your money is by throwing other black people under the bus, you're just a goddamn Sambo at that point, because they own. I've said this many times before, and I will say this in front of you and in front of my audience. Let me tell you something. I would rather live under the goddamn train trestle and eating goddamn insects as opposed to getting $1 million put in my damn bank account right goddamn now and be owned by some fucking white person. You understand? You understand? I'd rather live under the goddamn train tracks than be owned by some white person and be a millionaire. Because guess what? What good is having a damn $1 million when when the white man got his hand up your ass like a damn puppet or controlling you like some damn marionette? I mean, keep it. If that's the only way I can get my money, fuck it. I guess I'll die broke then. That is why to be honest with you, that is why I started my own business. Okay. I didn't want to work for anyone, and I definitely didn't want to work for white people. I didn't want white people telling me what to do. All right. I didn't want white people giving me orders. Okay. When white people talk to me now, They don't tell me shit. They ask me. When I worked a job, a white man could come to me and say, this needs to be done by Friday. Now, a white man come to me, he say, hey, Xavier, will it be done by Friday? It went from white folks telling me to white folks asking me. You understand? Now, don't get me wrong. I love taking white folks' money now because I have a lot of white customers. And if they watch this, they know when they around me, I talk this same kind of shit. If you come to my shops, you know I talk this same kind of shit to you white folks. All right. So this ain't nothing new to y'all. Okay. If one of my customers happen to be listening, you know this is nothing new, right? I love taking y'all money, but I will never work for one of you again, ever. Remember that. I will never work for you again. I would rather live on the side of the street and have a white man telling me what to do. That's just what it is. I'm sorry, white folks. I'm sorry, but that's what I feel. Okay? That's what it is. I'm sorry. Well, actually, I'm not sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. I'm not. But yeah, you're listening to the Prophet of Thought series on the old T.P.O.T YouTube page, and we live and direct with brother Cerulean Grey, a brother that I have much, much, much respect for. He's dropping many, many nuggets on y'all. I hope y'all got your pen and paper out, writing some of this stuff down, because if you don't, your ass gonna have to watch this video again. Also, you need to drop a few coins in this here bucket. See that right there? See that going in yellow right there? That Prophet of Thought series in yellow. Right there next to that is the old Streamlabs link. If you're feeling generous tonight, drop a few coins in the bucket. It is greatly appreciated. And if you don't mind, put a few likes in this here bucket. I do like the fact that the likes have exceeded the view count. I don't see that often, so I commend you, my audience. You are learning. The lessons are learning, grasshoppers. The lessons are working, grasshoppers. Brother Cerulean, I often hear you talk about, because we're gonna stick with a little bit of the men and women thing for a little while. I often hear you talk about a woman is designed to nest in the environment. Could you expound on that for the folks, if you would?
Yes. Our esteemed brethren, BGS has an entire series on the Bloom theory, known as the Lucifer principle. And it's a study of biology, anthropology, mixes in the geological studies. Black women typically are designed to nest, not oppose environment, but to nest. That's what they're designed for. Let's see. Men, however, men are designed to oppose environment, which is why our level of aggression, testosterone, and what have you is higher than that of women. You see, where women are designed to find a comfortable spot to nest in within environments. You see, and that's basically the in a nutshell, the difference between men and women. Women are not really designed for opposing environment, but to find a place to nest within it. Which is why you've had black feminism for how many years and virtually no progress. It's because that's nesting within the environment. What is the environment? The environment right now is that of white supremacy.
So
only the aggression and angst of a collectivized group of men can oppose this system, because that's what men are really designed for. Men are designed to basically oppose and overcome an environment.
So if we are, and I believe that many of us, the way we are, it's a whole manufacturing process. I do believe that. Do you believe that also the environment itself has been manufactured? And what do you think is the worst thing to be manufactured? The environment or the people that are in it? Or does the manufactured environment also help with the manufacturing of the people who live within it?
Oh yes, you see the manufacturing of the environment. See, you don't have to control people directly if you can control what they consume, and what they consume is what is in their perceivable environment. You look at the environment that we live in right now is basically mostly of artificial means. It's created by artificial means. It's created through ideas and policy and laws and all of that. You see, and because men are designed to, overcome environment, um, you see how the laws are structured, in which black male behavior is criminalized. And then you look at who's the highest or the largest group of men that are in prison. And why are they in prison at all? Is because those who dictated what criminal is has decided to criminalize black male behavior, which makes it easier to mass incarcerate us. And what criminal really is basically imposing or imposing on the environment or overcoming the environment, going through external means to circumvent and circumnavigate environment. Take for instance drug sales, right? How was it that drugs get into the community? They get dumped there by the CIA after the corporations have economically suffocated the black community. Then what happened? The jobs leave, the manufacturing plants, say for instance of Detroit, which left black men mostly jobless and unemployed. No new jobs were coming back. And according to the Oxford Handbook of the Economics of Poverty, what happened was the incubation of a criminal underclass. So this was all manufactured. The environment was manufactured, priming the ground for a criminal underclass. And so because men are designed to oppose environment, men decide to, especially black men, decide to pick up the drugs and make a means of income outside of the environment, outside of the artificially manufactured environment. So if there's no jobs coming back, they make one by becoming a drug peddler.
I've always thought this was strange that they create, white folks create these conditions, they create these environments, and then they, like we talked about earlier, they launch this so-called environment that they themselves have created. It's like they created the environment, and now they launch a war on the very environment that they create. And I'll tell you what I mean. For instance, when you talk about drugs and cocaine and shit like that, right? If they really wanted a war on drugs, they wouldn't be down in the hood fighting, because those drugs is coming in here by tractor trailer, plane, boat, and every damn thing else. Shit that black people don't own. Black people don't own no fleet of jets. Black people don't own no fleet of ships. Black people don't own no trains or none of that. Black people don't own any of that shit. So if it was truly a war on the drugs, they would be fighting those drugs where the drugs come in. They would be fighting the true war, fighting the war where the drugs come in bulk.
Well,
They
the
not.
reality
That
about
would be
that's true to an extent. You see, the thing about the war on drugs, right, is that it's the way that it's titled, right? The war on drugs. The war on drugs was actually the war for drugs, not the war on drugs, but the war for drugs. That's why you had the destabilization of, say, Medellin, in order to implant a proxy there that would supply America all of the coke and heroin that it could possibly produce, and sell that to American distributors such as Pfizer and Bayer at a lower premium cost than anywhere else in the world. And so the war on drugs was actually the war for drugs.
Okay.
You see, because if they really wanted to stop the incoming of drugs into the country, the first people that should have been disbanded and destabilized was the pharmaceutical corporations that bring in these drugs. Yeah, big pharma would be their first point of attack. But then again, big pharma, which sits on the Bayer, Pfizer, what have you, they sit on the board of like the Food and Drug Administration. They also sit on the board of Monsanto. These are the Plutarchs. Remember, this is all about cheaper labor for the corporations, cheaper goods, cheaper means of production for the corporations to offer a commercial product to the world at a premium. And so the war on drugs becomes a war for drugs, because during the 70s, the cheapest place you could get a mass-produced product like cocaine was basically Mexico. You see, Mexico, Colombia. That's what the implanting things like the Sandinistas and all of that there. That's what that was all about. Until the mass production of drugs, in which the Middle East becomes the largest manufacturer of drugs, which is why you see we leave the South America theater of operations, move directly into the Middle East theater of operations, in which you have Afghanistan manufacturing most of the world's heroin and opium based products. You have Pakistan manufacturing a sizable portion of the world's cocaine. Let's see. So we'll move in theater of operations until you get to like the 90s, in which you have Saddam Hussein threatening to leave OPEC. And then we go into Desert Storm, Desert Shield.
And when it all comes down to it, man, all this stuff is just, this stuff is rooted in, I don't want to just say rooted in just white supremacy, but it's rooted in white supremacy, and that supremacy staying intact over everyone, especially in the United States, because isn't it easier to subjugate a people if people do not realize they are subjugated? Isn't it easy to take advantage of people when they're not?
Absolutely.
When they don't realize they are being taken advantage of.
The easiest group to exploit, unbeknownst to themselves, are those who are of the truly disadvantaged of society. Take, for instance, Rick Ross, right? Freeway crack in the system. Rick Ross, living in abject poverty and squalor, gets his hands on cocaine, immediately lifted up out of that abject poverty and squalor. He doesn't realize he's being used by the CIA to fuel a for drug war in South America. He doesn't know that the money that is being produced by his sale of the drugs to black people is being used to pad the banks and to feed guns to the Contras of Iran and Iraq, in which we were priming those governments to supplant and depose their domestic leaders and replace them with proxy puppets. He didn't know that. All he knew was that he could get out of abject poverty by selling them.
Getting that money.
Getting the money.
That money. Well, I know from now on, I'm going to refer to that. I'm going to use that line, the war for drugs, not the war on drugs. I will be using that line. I will be stealing that line from you, brother. Cerulean. Be using that. Before we go, man, because we almost coming to the end of the show, I just wanna ask you one more question, man. Do you believe that we, and I'm talking about us as brothers, as black men, have we put a dent in the propaganda that has been pushed? Not just propaganda that's being pushed by white folks, but also some of the propaganda that's being pushed by some of us black folks. Have brothers like you, myself, the master teacher, so on and so forth, brothers of that ilk. Do you believe that we have made a dent in some of the propaganda?
I don't look at it that way. I look at it as a process. You can't measure how much stone you have carved by one swipe of the hammer. Now you can look at the progression of continuing hammering that chisel against the stone until the message is set in stone. And then you look at the finished tapestry after the fact. What we are doing is we are making little nicks by continuing to hammer the chisel against the stone.
This type of thing, man, you can't quantify. You can't really quantify it, man. I guess that's why
you look at
why we keep walking along.
Yeah, you look at a lot of the guys that the black people that are pushing this propaganda. These people are subverted. They don't even know it. They're looking for immediate results, instant microwavable gratification results. They're looking for white supremacy to be toppled overnight, when white supremacy was not built overnight. It was built by years of collective effort to get white people to this point, in which they have isolated, consolidated, and calcified the wealth, resources, and opportunities, and locked black people out of those wealth-generating apparatuses of America. That took years, hundreds of years of refining the process, passing the wealth, resources, and opportunities down to their heirs, and training their heirs to perpetuate the same modus operandi. You see, that took years. White supremacy was not built in a day. It won't fall in a day. Exactly. It took China. China is a monolith, and it took China nearly 150 years.
Because it's not like it's going away, because it's not like the white power structure, the system in this country. It's not like it has stopped manufacturing these environments. It hasn't stopped manufacturing these processes. I mean, it's not like it's stopped. It hasn't stopped. So, I mean, it's going to keep pumping. It's going to keep pumping them out. It's going to keep pumping out these environments. It's going to keep pumping out these processes. It's going to keep pumping out these people. Yeah. So there's really no way to like turn the faucet off.
There is actually a way to turn the faucet off. When in the organizational process, organization has to start with men first. Because men are designed to oppose environment. And so you get a critical mass of men to organize, collectivize the money to build the institutions because what you're fighting is institutional racism. How are you going to fight that if you don't have an institution? You're just walking around like atomized individuals trying to oppose a system with your fist in the air. That's not going to do anything. You have to collectivize as an organizational body to do that, and it actually begins with men. There's a quote that I always like to use, and that is, "If you have no soldiers, you ultimately have no men." You see, because the process of liberation of really anything actually begins with men. And it begins with men organizing as a body. I always like to look at the most honorable Elijah Muhammad as an example. Did he have women in his organization? He absolutely did. But who was out there opposing environment? It was men. Whether it was Malcolm X, whether it was Louis Farrakhan, what have you, it was still men. Whether it was Clarence 13X, or where it was Leo, yeah, whether it was Leo the Great,
Yeah. The men,
Leo.
the men have to lead. That's the answer to Black society, man. That, I mean, if men aren't in the lead, there's never going to be anything to lead. Never going to be anything to lead. You
Well, I
often
think,
hear people say that
well,
that women lead, but women aren't really leading. They're not leading.
well, you have to,
They're not leading.
you have to look at it like this, right? How are you going to expect your women to follow you unless you are
Mhm.
setting an example for them to follow? Because those children that are going to be incubated in the environment that you landscape, they're going to be looking at you
Mhm.
as the example.
Mhm.
And if you have the men running around here completely disorganized, all of these different ideologies that is just causing confusion, what do you think is happening to the child and the malleable mind of that child? You're like, why the hell am I going to follow this guy? And so men have to be on code. They have to be organized in order to set that example. Otherwise, you couldn't get a wayward dog to follow you.
And this is the thing. I mean, we're sitting here tonight, brothers, and these are conversations that need to be had. But you often hear people talk about other shit, man, that they think is more important than shit like this. They think it's more important whether or not women, they got the 50 women. They think it's more important. Yeah, they think it's Black society is not going to. Black society cannot fix itself as long as we are thinking about little infinitesimal trivial shit. We need to be thinking about, like you always say, you always talk about organization. Ever since I first started hearing you, brother, your message has not changed. So I think that many times, man, and I put myself in the fucking category too, because my black ass do it too. A lot of times we find ourselves, man, focused on shit that's not going to make us any better off after we do it. We're not going to be any better off. So we need to be more focused on the shit that after we do it, after we talk about it, after we discuss it, after we get involved with it, we're going to be better off after that. Yeah, that's what I think we need to be doing.
Absolutely, you know, is organization. See, when people forget that organization takes care, right? It takes constant upkeep. It takes constant reinstilling of your idealism to keep the organization not only afloat but in the structural integrity of it strong. It takes that's the reason why, you know, the system of white supremacy is so effective, right? Just because it trains one batch or one flock of students doesn't mean that the teachers' jobs are done. You see, what they're doing is they're making sure that you have a steady flow of students that are being pumped out as finished manufactured products that are going to conform to American society, American idealism, which is that of anti-blackness.
Exactly.
And so the job isn't done just because you organize one, you go to a couple community meetings. Organization is a long, ongoing process. It is a consistent campaign. See, people don't understand how power is, or power. They think that, oh, once you get power, that's a destination. No, power is an ongoing process of exercising your ability to manufacture your children in a way that benefits your group.
I agree. I'm in total agreement, man. I am in total agreement, and that is a good line to end this on. Brother Cerulean, man, I want to thank you for coming through tonight, man, on this 4th of July thing, man. You know, I have the utmost respect for you, brother. I have the utmost respect
No
for your
problem.
wisdom and your commitment to this here black world. Like I said earlier, I hope you folks out there was paying attention. If not, you got to rewind this goddamn tape and get some of these nuggets that the professor dropped on you. And also, if you're feeling generous, which you're probably not, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. If you're feeling generous, drop a few coins in this here bucket right there next to that yellow the Prophet of Thought series logo there. Drop a few coins in the bucket. And if you're feeling generous with your likes, drop a few of those in the bucket as well. Because when you got Brother Cerulean in the house, y'all know this is worth money. And it's definitely worth these damn likes right here. But I want to thank y'all for coming through tonight. Also, make sure you get your behinds down there at the Prophet of Thought series on Facebook. That's Prophet of Thought series on Facebook. And for the person that wrote me, I ain't gonna blow you up, but wrote me the other day to get on the Facebook page. You have to put in Prophet of Thought, one word, series. Prophet of Thought, one word, series. You know who you are because you wrote me. You was like, oh, X, I couldn't get on. I couldn't find it. So, Prophet of Thought, leave the out. Prophet of Thought, next word, series. That's the main page. It's a community page. All right. It's not a personal page. It's a community page. You can go on there. You can catch up with the U4 there. Of course, you can catch up with me there. We usually have the video links up there. Some of the old videos is up there. Always some good stuff up there. It's creeping up there too. I think it's like up to 1,000 followers, which I can't believe. I can't believe that many people follow me. What's the matter with you people? Yeah, going up there. That's our community page. Like, share, follow the page. You know, leave a comment if you want. I always answer my messages within a day, so it's all good. If you want to drop me a line, I'll hit you back. Also, go to the T.P.O.T bandwagon page on Facebook as well. That's the T.P.O.T bandwagon page. Now, that page is a personal page. You can actually send a friend request to that page, and I'll make sure that it gets clicked back quick. And also, get on down there to the Prophet Thought Series fan group page. That's the Prophet Thought Series group page. Now, that page has almost 3,000 members. Go ahead, request to be a member. I'll make sure that you get in there really, really quick. I done already talked to my admins. Y'all got to let people get up in the group because they was messing there for a little while. So I told them, look, people request to be in the group. Y'all got to let them in. So go ahead, request to be a member of the old Prophet Thought Series fan group page on Facebook. Become one of the 3,000. Also, hit us up on WhatsApp and Instagram. That's Prophet of Thought on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram. You guaranteed to get a follow back when I get around to checking it. But I have been checking it more, though. So don't be mad at me. I have been checking it more. Also, make sure you hit us up on Twitter. Hit the old T.P.O.T Twitter page. It's at T.P.O.T Media on Twitter. That's at T.P.O.T Media on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter. I will haunt your ass for the next 10 years. Also, make sure you stop by the old Prophet Thought Series website, www.oldprophetthought don'teventreit.wikifoundry.com. That's www.don'teventreit.wikifoundry.com. It's always some good stuff up there. I actually been going through the old Nubia Hood radio archives. There's shows up there that I had completely forgot I had done, y'all. So get on up there, check the old Nubia Hood radio archives. Also see the bio of T.P.O.T. And also you can catch up with four there as well. Each one of them has a short bio page and a GIF video with each one of their elements. And they also have a group bio page as well. And like I said, of course, my black ass is down there. So if you want to catch up with me, you can catch up with me there too. Request to be a member there as well. I'll make sure you get accepted quick. And also, while you there, I know I tell y'all this every week, but I'm gonna keep telling you till you get tired of it. When you go down to the old T.P.O.T website, make sure you stop by Tribute to the Fallen. The Tribute to the Fallen page is something that I've been doing for years. Tribute to the Fallen is a page that it pays tribute to people who have met an untimely death, whether it be by street violence or police violence. I've been getting some pictures. I have been putting them up. Thank you very much, folks. If you have someone that you want tribute paid to, make sure you send me the photograph and send me their name so I know who it is, so I can put them on the Tribute to the Fallen carousel. All right, it's something that I've been doing for quite some time. It's very important to me, and I feel like these people should be paid to as long as X's black ass is around. So make sure you stop by Tribute to the Fallen. And like I said, my email is on there. You can hit me up, send me a picture, send me the people's name. Even if you want to tell me a story about the person, it doesn't have to be somebody you know. It could be somebody you saw in the news, someone you seen in a newspaper. Make sure you send me the photograph and their name, and I'll make sure they get on the old Tribute to the Fallen carousel. Also, make sure you have your black behinds here tomorrow night, because tomorrow night, the Unicorn 4, T.L.O.T, will be in the house live and direct. Lady Cats, Lady Ming, Lady Classic, and Lady Kendra, T.L.O.T, the ladies of thought. And tomorrow, we will be talking about the subjugation of black folks. Yes, that's going to be the title, the subjugation of black folks. We will be talking about not only how white folks have subjugated black folks, but we will also be asking the questions of what other groups have contributed to the subjugation of black folks. So that one may get a little heated. It's going to be a hot topic. So make sure you have your black behinds here tomorrow, right here on the old T.P.O.T YouTube page, as me and T.L.O.T go into the subjugation of black folks right here on the old T.P.O.T YouTube page. You know, once again, I want to thank everybody in the chat. I want to thank my mods, always in there doing what they supposed to do. And also, I want to thank you for watching tonight, spending some time with us. It's greatly appreciated. Make sure you have your behinds here tomorrow night, because it's going to be just as lit. All right. And also, I want to thank my guests of honor, the Professor Cerulean Grey. And guess what, y'all? If y'all want to hit Cerulean Grey's channel up, the description is down there in the description box. You can hit that link and go right to the Professor's channel. If you want to hear more of these nuggets, it's right down there. Okay. Okay. Anyway, once again, I thank everybody for coming out, and I thank the Professor for coming through as well. So with that, I will leave you with 3 words. Like I always do, open your minds. And we out of here, y'all.
All right, peace. Salute, brother.
Peace, Professor Cerulean. Peace, folks.